Okay, we're back. And now I am going to add 3 crosses back here on the hillside. So I use my T-square to make sure that my upright lines are straight. And this I just can hook over the top of my canvas. And that will assure me that I get my lines straight on my crosses. So they're just going to pop up just above the trees. And I can just rest my brush against that T-square. I don't lay the canvas all the way, or the T-square all the way on the canvas. You can see I have my fingers under it. And then I just put these crosses in. Put the uprights of the cross in, and I drag that into the wet paint of the sky because I don't want them real distinct, and I'm not going to have them just equally spaced either. And one back here. So that's how I do the upright lines. And let's go ahead, while I'm doing it, I'll go ahead and pull the line for the pole for my weather vane. Again, I do the same thing. I just put my finger under the T-square so it doesn't hit the canvas and get wet paint on it. And then I can just rest the brush against that and just pull right through that painted area in the background. And I need it a little bit darker here, so I just do this again. There you go. And so that's how I get that straight line. And then my crosses are going to be in perspective. So they're going to, this one's higher. This one's a little bit lower. And this one just, I'm going to have to do a little work on that. That one I have too tall. And what I need to do, okay, is I've got my tree coming up too high. So I take some of my sky color, and again, this is phthalo blue plus white. I just pull down into the tree so I keep my sky clean. I just want the top edge of this tree to be soft. So that's, and each time I wipe my brush so I don't pull any of that green into the sky. I'm going to soften this other edge just a tiny bit too. Okay, now let me do my upright again. And let's see, that will be right about here. There we go. And again, I want my sky color to kind of just fade that out. So that's why I pull the stroke into the wet paint of the sky. I had to adjust the size of that tree just a little bit to show my cross. And I've shown a little bit more of the distant mountain back there. So let's go ahead now and put our other cross in. Sometimes things don't work and you have to paint it out and start over, and that's the joy of oil paint, is if you don't like something you can always scrape it off, paint it out, start over. So now let's add our third cross in there. Again, these are in perspective. So this one is down back here. And it's just barely going to show over that tree. Had my tree too high and we couldn't see that third cross. So now we'll put our crossbar in there. And again, this one's just more in the distance. In fact, I'm going to lighten that just a touch on the, thin it out, soften it so it just falls back. Even with my little bit you see down here. Just want that to fall back behind the tree. Want the crosses, they're there, but I don't want them just to jump forward. Again, that's that to help give distance in a painting. Soft things go back, harder edges, more defined, detailed elements come forward. So I can just pull with a clean brush, pull from my sky into that. And that softens that edge. A little bit more here. And now we're going to start working on this little bluff over here, and I'm going to have a little waterfall there coming down behind the horses and the mare and the foal. So I bring a little bit rocks in here, and the water will be falling over these rocks and behind the horse's head. And then these rocks come over. There's a little bit of outcropping of rocks in here. And again, this is the sun's coming in from the left, so these rocks are going to be in shadow. And the light hitting that water back there then takes it back. Gives depth. And these again are my mixes of my mud, which is 2 parts of ultramarine blue plus 1 part of alizarin crimson. I've added cadmium orange and white into that. So these are a little bit darker. And we'll bring some of the rocks in here. These Texas streams, just there's outcroppings of rocks, and they're not real regular, but okay, now use a little bit smaller brush. We want this waterfall to come behind the mare's neck. Keep my tissue in my hand, I keep dropping it. There's a little bit of a, just, you know how I made the little line back here along the edge? Well, I want a little bit here along this light coming in behind that those dark rocks. And then we're going to have a little bit of this. There's just a little bit of light hitting the top edge of the waterfall here. So that's a little bit lighter. There's going to be a rock jumping up there, and then now what we do is we bring some more of our, this is my mud plus ultramarine blue plus white. It's mostly ultramarine blue plus white plus a little bit of mud. I'll work carefully around my mare's head there. Her neck. You can see how I can use the corner of that brush to make some pretty fine brush strokes. I'll have to come back and kind of erase with a clean brush where I've gone over her. But right now I want to show you how I make that waterfall. And so I've done my rocks in dark. Now waterfall is like steps. And steps, the flat plane gets the sunlight from above. The upright plane of the steps, the riser, is darker because it gets less light. Our waterfall is that same concept. The top of the water there gets a lot of light from the sky. Where it's falling over, it's into shadow because it's not getting as much light. So I use a darker mixture, and then pulling also over those dark rocks makes it darker. But you can see, then I just pull my water over that, and it's not all over the rocks because there's breaks where some of the rocks come up a little higher. And then down below, where you get the foam, where the water's tumbling over, then this is lighter. This will go in behind my mare's head. Again, I'll have to erase that out. But this gives you that feel of the water, and you just hear that. You can hear the little tumbling of the water, and then we get darker as we come down. And these rocks will reflect down into the water. And a little light. Little light right here. This also catches some light. You can see how I use the corner of my brush to make that light. It's going to be a bigger rock here. I come back in and define it. So where the rocks pop up, that water can't fall over. It has to go around. So we just pull some of that water down. Now, again, my mare was drawn in a previous session, so she's dry, so I can just come back and erase with a clean brush. I can go back and get my original sketch there. Come back down. So that shows you how I do the bluffs and get that waterfall. I'm going to bring my water down here. This will get darker. And these rocks, this color just reflects down into that rock, into the water. There's rocks all in here. And the mare and foal are on a little spit of land coming out. And she's come down to get a drink of water. Little beach. I'll work some water in behind her. Get a little bit of this land back here. Work in and around her in the foal. And then there's water back in behind her. And this blue then will accentuate the warmth of her body. And this is just blocking in. I'll have a little bit more work to do on this, but this gives you an idea of how I get this here. And this is going to reflect down in. I want that to be pretty indistinct behind the horses here on this end, because I want the main focus to be here on her head. I really appreciate you watching my YouTube videos, and if you'd like to see the entire step-by-step process of this painting, just click on the link below, and that'll take you to the very first blog post of this painting, and then you'll be able to follow through the blogs and see the entire step-by-step process. And if you're watching this the day that I posted the video, today's blog will be the last one that you see, because I haven't done any more on the painting. But if you're a month or so after this, then you can just go through the whole process and see the entire blog. But just to find that, click on the link below. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I thank you for following along. Please feel free to ask questions, and just be nice to somebody today. Be kind. You see somebody in the parking lot if you're at the grocery store and you see a lady struggling with groceries and kids and her shopping cart's running away from her, go give them a hand. Just be kind to somebody. So you have a super, super day, and thank you.